Good evening, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, and I'm so pumped. My computer is fixed. I'm back online from a little hiatus that I did not plan with one of my dear friends and one of my favorite authors this year, because not only did I pick one book of hers, I picked two books. That's how good a writer she is, because every one of the authors that I select are what I call five diamonds in the Pulpwood Queen tiara. That is my highest mark, and I use To Kill a Mockingbird as my standard. So you're right up there with Harper Lee, my friend. And but I want to make one big announcement before we talk. Today, in this stormy weather, I just got the notice that our book of the month for the
Yes.
Pulpwood Queens,
Mhm.
Barbara Kingsolver, Demon Copperhead, won the Pulitzer Prize. Now, this is not the first Pulitzer Prize winning author. We've had Doug Marlette. We've had several authors that have come to us that have won the Pulitzer, but this was really special because I have loved her books since the get-go. And if you haven't read all of her books, you need to read them. I think Oprah Reese has picked her book now too. And so we're all in the same opinion. This is a great read, as are all the International Pulpwood Queen and Timber Guide Book Club selection. So we're here tonight, and we're first going to talk about this week. Next week is Red Rain, but this week is Shadow of the Taj. And I tell you, I could not put this book down when I got it. In fact, you guys, about 2/3 of the books that I am picking for next year, I picked because people are getting me their books earlier. But this was so good. And of course, it was a story, our International Book of the Month. It was a story that I feel like is going to have more ripples in the pond with the more people reading it. And after going to Atlanta, Georgia to help Anju Gatani kick off her Winds of Fire series, she had two not-for-profit organizations there, Laura. I wish you could have gone with me because they have a magazine, they're wonderful, but they help women that are in abusive situations and give them safe places to stay and help them financially till they can get on their feet. And they also help those that are being trafficked into the sex trade. And so I'm donating I've been working on a painting involving saris, vintage saris, to donate to them for their big fundraiser this fall. And because I love that our book club is not just a book club that reads together and discusses with our author, but that we also are paying it forward by taking on either women's causes or literary causes. And one other thing I'm going to mention before I get started, I just talked to Karen Reed of our Madison Jackson chapter. They're headed down to the Honduras. This is their, oh gosh, I can't remember if she said it was her 7th or 9th year of going down to the Honduras to provide a school with all their school books, their school supplies, clothing. Now they're even building houses. They have really just gone crazy in Madison with supporting this wonderful venture. And I'm going to acknowledge them at this year's up and coming Girlfriend Weekend, because I am not hearing from people. Janet, I know you're here from the Beaufort chapter. I need to hear more from my chapters what you guys are doing to promote literacy. Luckily, you have Jonathan Hote, who keeps me very well informed, and you guys are doing a lot of things there in South Carolina and Beaufort and beyond. But tonight, Laura's here, and I first of all want to congratulate you, Laura, because anybody that goes back to school under the circumstances you've gone back to school gets, my applause. And also,
Thank
you
you.
graduated with your master's in English education and
That's right.
education
Mhm.
4.0. Now, I graduated magna cum laude, but I think I was 3.8 something. I don't know. But 4.0, you got my attention. I am so impressed, and I hope this
Thank
inspires.
you.
Tracy was just talking about how she wants to go back to school. We all need to go back to school, which is the title of my next book, The Pulpwood Queen Goes Back to School. So first of all, tell us about that experience before we talk about Shadow of the Taj.
Of going back to school?
Mm.
Yes. Um, I work as an academic advisor now during my day job. And so higher education has become that much more meaningful to me, that much more important. And my supervisor has her master's degree, and she wasn't going to push me, but when I told her I'm thinking that I actually do want to get a master's degree, she was all in. She was so excited, very supportive. And I felt very strongly that down the road a little bit, I would really love to share my passion for books by helping teach people either survey and literature or comp classes. So my ultimate goal is, after I've had a little bit of rest, a little bit of a break, I would like to do some adjunct teaching in an English department. So that I've already had for this spring, I already had one invitation to think about it. So I'm thinking about it, and we'll see if I'm ready. But
Well, I don't
very
know if
excited.
we have any listeners from India, but maybe some of those universities over there need to invite you over to speak
To
about
India.
this, because here you are, have written two fantastic Five Diamond and the Tiara books, and you're continuing your education. You're leading by example, and we've talked a lot about what you do with the people that you're working with in academic advising. And that is so important, because if anybody's read my book, they know that when I went to my high school counselor to go to college, I told him that I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought I'd become a flight attendant until I figure it out. And he said, no, you are enrolled at Kansas State University. You're going to be an elementary education teacher, and your parents have already signed the paperwork. Next, and that's seriously what happened to me. And, I was a big proponent that when my children were growing up, and I'm sure Laura with yours too, if you have a passion for something, that's what young people need to hear, because when you are passionate about the subject that you're studying and you're going into, you're going to do 10 times more than doing something that you don't want to do. So that's just my.
You'll do better. You'll enjoy it. Absolutely. I have a lot of people sit across my desk and tell me that they hate writing. And I will tell them, then you probably didn't ever have someone teaching you how to make it enjoyable, like how to get your interest. And I had someone recently tell me he just made stuff up and then repeated it over and over again. And I said, you're just not coming at it the right way. And even if you don't love it, you can learn to appreciate it a little more than that. And I work a lot with aspiring authors. I go to conferences. I'm invited to present. I'll be at, I think, 3 this fall, and I'm teaching at a
Good.
retreat as well. And already I've found that the teaching classes that I took have impacted how I'm approaching those as well. So really, there's just nothing but good. I don't regret this at all. There's been already, I can tell the difference, and I'm happy I did it, but I'm also happy it's over. I'm ready
Yeah,
for a break.
the first day that you don't have to get up to go to all those classes or go to the nighttime classes, I didn't know what to do with myself. Have you found that what you
Yes.
just kind of are, I feel like I should be doing something.
Yes.
Why am I not driving?
Yes. After I took my final and I was completely finished with it, for the next week, I kept thinking, okay, I've got to find my next textbook and get that ordered and start reading and get ahead of the curve. And there was no more textbook to go get. And then the next week, I kept thinking that there's this feeling that you should be doing something.
I think you've done a lot, and I think you're going to be going some really great places with everything that you've accomplished through all your hard work. This is the one thing. If you do the work, when you finally earn that degree, there's nothing like that feeling in the world, because you earned it. And, I can't, it's like kind of like buying your first car. Your parents can give you an old clunker and you drive it around, but when you buy that first
Get
car,
your yes,
when
you
you
did it.
make that final payment and it's yours, because I did not have that happen to me until I was in my 60s, where
Mhm.
I literally bought my own car and paid it off in 5 years. And I love my car. So I'm excited for you. And I know your children are going to be inspired by your leadership of showing them the way. So let's get to your book, Shadow of the Taj. Now, I know the story. You've talked about it at Girlfriend Weekend on our international panel, and we've talked a lot about it. But for those that are going to be joining on our YouTube channel that don't know anything about this book, you're an American and you are living in Oklahoma. And so, how in the world did the story that's set in India come about?
I spent 6 months in India. It's been a while now. It's been about 25 years ago. Yeah, so I
A
don't
lot
like
has
to get
changed. A
too
lot has
so.
changed.
But it was an incredible experience and very enriching. But it was also, there was a lot of culture shock involved. It was very different. And then several years later, I spent quite a few months in Pakistan as well. I was very surprised. The newspapers and the magazines that we had available to us there, the English language, are not filtered the way that the news is that we receive here.
Absolutely.
And so I saw some pretty horrific stories while I was there. I had people who sometimes would approach me wanting to come home with us, saying that they would come home and pledge themselves to my family and their children to my children. And it was just disheartening to me. People were so desperate to make a better life for themselves. And I couldn't help but notice whose heart isn't broken by the small children in the street. And when you find out some of them aren't necessarily even just beggars out there, but are being forced into this behavior by people who then take that money from them and don't necessarily treat them well. So this is something that the idea just was planted in my heart, and it just grew there. It never went away. And eventually I decided to write it into a book and take all of those experiences and turn them into something that had a happy ending, even if it was just for my fictional character. As soon as I named that character Ravina, as soon as I gave her a name and started writing about her, I fell in love with her myself. There was no way she was going to have anything but a happy ending after I started writing her.
Can you tell just enough, and don't give the story away, but just enough so that people will understand why they need to read this book? The story is
So
about.
the main story is about one woman's chance to kind of make things right and be able to heal some things that have gone wrong in her life. She's affected by a lot of forms of abuse that women suffer all around the world, right here, everywhere.
Mhm.
So her main journey is finding that healing for herself, but she's also helping someone else while she's doing that. And then within that story, it does bring to light real issues. Even though I was there quite some time ago, they are very real right now. Human trafficking is a real issue everywhere. I do have people sometimes say, but why India? Why not here? Here we are in America. Let's take care of our own before we worry about someone else. And I've traveled a lot. I think I tend to think a little more globally, but honestly, the reason wasn't that inspired when I started writing it. The whole idea was that's where I first learned about it, but also the problem, statistically speaking, is worse there. And they have so many more women and children who are affected by this. Here in America, when the last time I looked up figures, it was in the hundreds of thousands here, whereas we're talking about like 2 million or more. That's just the ones that they're counting. There could be a lot more. And that's our sisters, you know, they're on the other side of the world, but I've always considered them that's someone's sister, that's someone's daughter, they're all someone. And they're treated so horrifically, and it upsets me to no end.
You know, I've always picked international reads, but I decided that it was, our moral responsibility that we educate ourselves on other countries. And if we don't start walking in their shoes for a while and understand, I mean, I can't complain about a thing. I watch these shows, everything from Slumdog Millionaire to,
Mhm.
I mean, I watched one the other night about a young girl who's sold into prostitution. And once you're sold into prostitution, you can't ever, nobody will ever take you back.
Right.
Here in the United States, we have a lot of this too, but we do have resources, and the resources are getting better for other places. I mean, when I was in Atlanta, they had those two organizations come and speak about how they're helping all these women. I was so inspired because the one thing about us reading all these women's stories is that, and all of the majority of our book club is women. I mean, we welcome everybody, but the majority of, so we have, the power because of the numbers to make change. So hopefully when people read this, they'll say, what can I do? I mean, do something. I mean, even if you just speak out, there's something you can do. And I really am, that would have been a tough book to write. I really applaud you for writing it because it needs to be known. Thank you.
I support some places that so there's a group called Free the Girls.
Hmm.
It doesn't really cost you anything. It may be a little bit of shipping, although if people go together and ship all together, you do a bra drive. It can be clearance bras that you picked up and never used. It could be gently used bras. Maybe you got it home and it turned out it just wasn't quite right for you after all. Obviously, we don't want to send worn out,
Right.
trash, but they take very gently used, and it is a wonderful model. They send them to places. Some they've got some going to Africa. I think they were trying to get some going to India as well, but I'm not certain that worked out. I know they send them to Africa, but it's women who've been rescued from human trafficking. They are typically very scared of men. They don't want to be around men. They don't do well around men. These donated bras are put into their hands and it gives them a means of supporting themselves. When they have no way to support themselves, they're very likely left with no option but to go back. They at least start thinking about going back because at least there they had a place to stay. They had something to eat. It's to break that cycle. They're given a way to empower themselves. They have a source of income and it is women to women only. There are no men involved. And so it's a much safer, more comfortable way for them to find some independence again and get back on their feet.
And so many of these women have children. And the
Yes.
thing that, I think will change the world is if we start treating our children better. And by helping these women, we're helping their children. We have to really think about not just our own children, but all kids. We need to help. So you're very inspired. What has been the most inspiring thing that's happened to you since this book came out? Have you had anybody come up to you, and what's the most interesting story?
That's a good question. I have someone who reached out to me from England. She lives in England, and I'm not even 100% sure how she found this book. And it was she said she found it so moving that she wanted to reach out to me. And it was on a social media messenger app. It's one of those messages where you get something popping up and you think it's going to be nothing good, and it turns
Yeah.
out it was this woman apologizing, saying, "Oh, if I don't make you feel uncomfortable, but this was just such a fantastic book and I needed to reach out to you and tell you how moved I was by it." And she still sometimes sends messages now. Every time I have a book released, she's reading it. She says that I've become one of her favorite authors, which is pretty incredible. Somebody that's in England that just just happened to find it. It's
Are you printed? Are you printed yet in England or any foreign countries yet?
um yeah, so it's not it's English only. It's not translated
That's
into
okay, but
other
are you in
languages,
any
but
other
they're
countries that you know
available.
of?
Yes. They're
Yeah,
available.
I think that's going to be what's going to help globally. Things get, we've got the internet and everything, but until books are being able to be read anywhere in the world, I'm waiting on a book to come out. It's, Amazon India, and I can't get it, because it's just there. But there's got to be a way. I'm working on that, trying to figure out some ways. But I think, and you were nominated for a Oklahoma award. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, every year the Oklahoma Center for the Book hosts the Oklahoma Book Award. They have several categories, but I write fiction, and it's the best fiction category that I'm up for. Red Rain was actually my third finalist. They don't call it a nomination, but it was the third book of mine that was a finalist. So I was hoping third time was going to be a charm, but it went to a friend of mine. So how can you
There's a
be
lot of
sad
authors in
about that?
Oklahoma, a lot of
And
great authors.
actually, this was the third time that I was a finalist with my husband, Bill. We were against each other, but I mean, people say something like against each other. I was like, are you kidding me? It just gives us that much more of a chance of bringing it home, right? Like it's fun when we're both there.
I think I had 4 Georgia authors nominated for Georgia Books of the
I
Year,
saw that.
and
Yeah.
that's tough. They go, "Who are you voting for?" And I go, "Well, I can't vote." So I vote for all of them. That I just think it's wonderful that, their books get recognized, and I congratulate you on that too. But you've got Red Rain out, and you're doing all these events. Have you started on a third book?
Yes, it's probably, in fact, I was really hoping it would be finished by now, but
Oh,
between the classwork kind of picking
I
up on
don't know
me
how
and
you do
then the
this.
health, then this past 6 months, I've been dealing with I got thrown a curveball with a health condition that I wasn't anticipating that I had to deal with. But these things are behind me now. It's probably about a third of the way written. So not as far along as I would like, but yes, and it's going to focus on quality of life versus quantity of life. It's about a woman who's dealing with a serious illness with one of her children and goes
That's
through a divorce at the same time. So it's great
Oh
fun.
boy. Well,
I'm
I
kind of
can.
the opposite of Marilyn. you know, Marilyn talks about how her books are funny and you're supposed to laugh. I'm the other way. When you need to laugh, you go get Marilyn's. When you need to cry, you reach for one of mine, right?
Right. I like a mixture of genres, so thank you for that. And it is hard when you think about the books that you're writing to make the decision on what story is it that you're going to tell. What made you pick this particular story? What drove you to write this book, this new one that's coming
The
out?
new one.
Mhm.
So I don't want to make it sound like memoir because it isn't, but it's based
No.
on it's based on real things that have happened to me. So that's kind of what I do with all of my books. I take an experience that changed my life in some way and I fictionalize it. In fact, for decades, people would say, you have got to write a book, you've got to write about that. And it was so raw and
Right.
even just thinking about writing about it was too much. And I finally found the way in. Plus, I'm removed now. I'm in a better place, which I think makes it easier. But it finally clicked how I could fictionalize this and how it could actually be a story, not my story, but a story. And so my books weave in real experiences, but they're not true life. They're not, it's something that's inspired by actual events, which that can mean anything, right? But it does have that truth woven within it.
It's so true because if you write a nonfiction book, everybody gets mad at you. They get mad if they're not in it or if they are in it. If you
Right.
write fiction, they swear it's true when you've made it up. So it's so funny how they pick the opposite way. But I think we need to read both because then we get the full picture. So I'm excited. So maybe it'll be out, this is our 24th year coming up. Maybe it'll be out for 25. That would be really great.
It's going to become a big focus. I have actually 3 books in progress right now, but this is the one that would go to you. So,
all right. I'm excited about that. So let's open it up for discussion with everybody's here. If you have a question, tell everybody who you are and then make a comment or a question. Who wants to begin?
I'll go.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Ramsberger, and I'm in Maryland, and I'm about to publish my second novel. And Laura, I'm wondering, having been in your shoes, not in India, but in the first few countries that I stepped foot in, what message what just completely surprised you? And what message as a result did you want to bring back to the American public, especially women? And is it in this book, or is it interspersed throughout your books?
that is a great question. And it's absolutely in Shadow of the Taj. I was overwhelmed by the level of poverty. It is at a level that we just can't. And yes, we have our own problems here. My gosh, we do. We haven't mastered things here. But in India, I saw it at a level that just blew my mind, and it hurt not to be able to fix it, if that makes sense. I mean, again, every time somebody comes to me saying that they want to help, or that they need help, that they want my help, I want to help them. It's hard for me to kind of put those blinders on and just keep moving. And sadly, there are also some people, just like anywhere else, I'm certainly not trying to single out any specific country. There are places in America you don't want to go. But there are people who we stick out, guys. We're not going to blend in and look like we are native to India, and that kind of made us a target. Now, I had some small children when I was traveling, which I think lessened it a little bit. I think people actually saw me as more of a real person because I did have children. I wasn't just some American, but still, not always. Sometimes I was approached and mistreated. There were times that someone would walk by or drive by a guy and would just reach out and put his hands on me, which is just not appropriate. But there were places that were just, there were so many people hurting, and there's just not any way to fix it. And we don't see that here.
Well, this book is a start, as are so many, I mean, if we read about India, we know it slightly better. So thank you for the book.
And I loved my time there. I certainly don't want to come across like I thought I was trying to fix something or trying to be critical at all. It's this incredible country with history that goes back so far. I was just blown away by it. I loved it. It was so enriching. I brought things home, right? I have a much wider palette, spices that I have to incorporate into things. I brought back food and incense, and I have artwork that I brought back with me. I felt like I went there to visit, but that it kind of came back with me. It got under my skin personally. And I love when I hear that Indian lilt, when I hear someone talking who's speaking English as probably their second language, and they have that beautiful dialect. So no criticism here. I love the country. I think it's incredible.
It's the amount of the humanity that's I want to see. Everybody goes, "Are you going there to find yourself?" Because I do want to go. I go, "No, I pretty much know who I am," but I think in order to truly understand I think you have to experience it
Oh,
in some
yes.
form or fashion. If you go different places, you look at the world through different eyes because we all have the ability to, share experiences when we do. That's why I'm the one person that'll watch the travel slideshow.
When we were there, I had the times that I was invited into people's homes and we actually got to
Yeah.
sit and visit with them. Just the most incredible memories. I had a woman who was a dance teacher and she taught Bharatanatyam at one of the universities. So she started giving me lessons so that I could
Oh,
try their very traditional dance. It's an experience, but I'd go back. I mean, if I would love to go back. We hope to go back.
yeah, I do too. Thank you, Kathy. Is there anybody else who'd like to raise a question? I hope everybody's got their mute buttons off.
I am so fascinated that both you and Kathy are drawn to stories about India. I always wonder what becomes a magnet for us, what country we're drawn to. Is there something deep inside of us that's drawn to something? So you've answered my questions tonight, what inspires this interest and what's your next book about. But I just want to commend you for always focusing on the women's issues and those that are so important across the world, not just here in the United States, and for Kathy for choosing international books for us so that we can learn more if we can't travel there.
I've always been a big armchair traveler, and I know all of you have. All of you have. But it isn't just India that fascinates me. It's just now that's what's fascinating me. I had a big fascination for Africa forever, and Australia and Bali and all these different countries. I was a big Margaret Mead fan. But I find that when I read a book that engages me, I want to go down that rabbit hole. And I'll be, I just watched Bridgerton. Oh, if you guys haven't seen the last season, oh my God, it's so good. And I want all of our books to be made to film because we have the best books. They make the best films. So hopefully that if there's anybody that's in the film industry that hears this, look at the Pulpwood Queen picks because they'd all make fabulous films. So what's the best case scenario for you, Lara? I mean, what is it that you want to have happen from your writing life? Big question.
I'm kind of feeling like, I honestly feel like probably I've already achieved more than I ever really expected to, if that makes sense. Like I'm already feeling kind of, Bill would probably laugh at me if he heard that because I'm constantly wanting to keep writing and do more and hoping better. Like I do hope I actually bring home the Oklahoma Book Award once, but just to keep growing that audience, maybe widening the reach, engaging more. I love it. I feel like I'm taking baby steps. If anyone ever calls me an overnight success down the road, if I were ever at that point, I would laugh because it's going to have been probably somewhere between 10 and 20 years that overnight success took. But that's okay. I mean, you keep saying it's all about the story and how we're armchair travelers. And when we read these books and we get to experience that, we do become more empathetic. We do become more understanding and generous people. I wrote more than one paper. When we had some say in our final paper, I wrote about the effects of reading on people and how critically important it is that we engage as young as possible, because just being a lifelong reader, not only are we finding out that there's mental improvement, obviously, but emotional, physical. People who are lifelong readers tend to live longer. They feel better while they're there. Their cognitive abilities remain stronger. And we just are kinder and more forgiving to each other. We've lived through so many experiences and been allowed to step into so many other sets of shoes that we just sort of become better neighbors, better friends, better citizens, because we can extend some generosity to the other people that we live with.
It's so true. So take those adventures, read the books, go to those places, and then write about it.
Mm.
And I agree with you too about how somebody says, I hate writing. Somebody either put them in charge of writing something they didn't want to write about. But if you get any person talking about something they have a passion for, they'll write about it, they'll talk about it. But if you tell them, I flunked speech in high school because I was so scared standing in front of people, I couldn't talk until I was asked to give an award or accept an award at the American Booksellers Convention. I had to give a speech to over 3 to 4,000 children's booksellers, and I flunked speech. Now, I'm going to tell you, my knee was shaking so bad, the president of the Women's Book Council held my knee because it kept hitting the podium. And I cried, ugly cried during my speech. But I made it through and I told my story, and I thought, and then I was just mobbed. Everybody goes, oh my gosh, Kathy, I've never been so. And I thought, what was I so scared of? And the more you do something, the easier it gets. So if there's any authors out there that say, oh, I can never get up in front of people, I say, hold my hand and I'll walk you through it, because if I can do it, anybody can. And look at you, Laura. You've gone on all these adventures. You just went to Egypt not too long ago. That was amazing. I love the photos. Every author that goes to Christopher Cook's been posting from Paris. I mean, all these wonderful pictures come in. It just makes me want to go. So let's go around the world reading these books. Anybody else want to chime in with any question or comment?
I just want to say that I feel like in a lot of schools today, there's a template for writing that doesn't allow for creativity and individualism. And I would love if schools started to move away from that. I understand it has to be taught, but there are very few things in high school that allow for creative writing. And I just think it needs to be there. I've seen it with my own kids. I've seen them blossom in creativity in their 20s that they didn't have in high school and college. And it's just my hope and wish for at least our country, it might be the world right now, is that we have more room to express who we are in our stories.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I
Kathy.
heard a lot from my teacher classmates that they would like to have more ability to do things like that, and that they are so rigorously held to teaching to the test that there's just limited time to what they can do. I don't pretend to know what the fix is here, but
It's not the teachers, it's the
yeah.
structure. It's the structure.
They spend the majority of their time disciplining, trying to keep everybody in control.
That's true
And
too.
they don't have time to teach. And they don't give the kids recess, so they can't work off any of that sit in
Mm.
your chair all day attitude.
Mhm.
So I don't even want to take on education, but I know that individually, all of us can get people excited about reading. I know I read to my kids from the time they were born, before they were born, and they're both voracious readers. In fact, they constantly, I'll be missing a book and I go, well, one of them got one of my public queen reads. So anyway, how old are your kids now, Laura?
And my eldest is 30 and my baby he'll be 23 in July.
Isn't that amazing? Because you don't look older than 30 yourself.
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
look
and they run the gamut there. So pretty much all grown up, which is letting me finally kind of break out and do some of my own stuff now.
Well, you're doing something so right because you look good, and I'm so
you.
proud of you and all your accomplishments. And we're going to, this is recorded. It's going to be downloaded onto the Pulpit Queen channel. And I want to remind everybody to subscribe. It's free. And you can watch it at your own leisure, share it with your book club and have a watch party. Kathy Ramsberger also has a YouTube channel, and we need to subscribe to each other's channels. Do you have one at this time, Laura, or anybody else here? Well, that I'm sure that will come. I'm sure that will come because you're doing a lot. But
Julia
rest.
has one. Julia has
Oh,
one. Everyone
Julia.
should
Oh, yeah.
subscribe to
And
hers and her podcast.
yes, absolutely, Julia.
Yes. She's doing
So
some fantastic work. Yes, I need to probably add on, I don't know, another thing. Let me get some books finished, and then I'll see if I can.
that's
My
what I'm
husband-
trying to do
My
right now. is
husband
get
has a
book finished.
podcast.
Yeah.
My husband has a podcast, and the Red Sneaker Writers podcast, and occasionally I step in and co-host with him. Right? Or is it just called WriterCon now, Bill? I should know this.
Well, you know what? Put that, you can still post today on the thing. Just text me and I'll approve it.
Okay.
And also list that organization that does the bras for the women.
Absolutely.
Because everybody could, I mean, everybody's bought a bra that doesn't fit when they get home.
And I've tried doing drives before. I mean, I always feel like I function with ones and twos, right? Little bits here and there. And I just have these dreams of sending, I don't know, an avalanche of goodness to whatever I'm contributing to. And this happened one time. We did, and this will tie into the book I'm working on right now. I was trying to help support the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, yeah.
That I stayed in out of state while we were going through treatment, and we collected can tabs. So we didn't really drink much soda, but I had family who did. I just told everyone collect, and at the church, and then at the school, they turned it into one of their student council projects. And the next time I went, after the school and the church and friends and everybody pitches in. It's incredible what we can do all together, because I took 5 or 6 black trash bags full of can tabs.
No way.
Which is, people always ask why this? Because the place nearby donated the use of their facility to turn that into money, which then gets put back into the Ronald McDonald House and helped with its operating costs. They work completely on donations once they get set up. And so I carried that in, and I went back for another one. And finally the person in the building came out and asked, where did all of this come from? And it was just blown away. They sent me a letter and certificate, which I didn't even want to give my name, honestly, but I did, because he wouldn't let me leave without it, but he helped me get them all in. And he was dumbfounded. That's what I would love to do with everything that I'm trying to support and contribute to.
That is great. We'll just have to tell everybody to get that address and
those are things that don't cost money,
No.
Like a bra that you're not going to wear anymore. Believe me, I was a single mom for a lot of years, and I know what it feels like to not have even $1 to donate to someone or something. I get that. And it seems like someone's always asking for things, but there are ways that you can help that don't have to cost money.
That's right. So figure out what those are and do it. So, okay. Well, thank you, Laura. We're going to see you again next week when we're going to be talking about Red Rain. You're going on to Beaufort. You're going to be there before our next Tuesday night book club meeting. Is that right, Janet?
Yes. Yeah. We'll see Laura right before your meeting.
I'm going to do basically back-to-back Zooms.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll know that you're going to come on board right at 7 then. So don't worry about getting on early or anything. I love it that you're doing that with the Beaufort chapter. And thank you for letting me know. That's wonderful. I love it. If anybody's listening, please let me know if you're going to have an author, and take pictures, share them. We want to show the world what the Pulpwood Queens are doing. And very few people share photos with me. And now I've lost all my photos when my laptop crashed,
Oh,
other
no.
than what I had saved on in the cloud. I don't have any girlfriend weekend pictures now. None.
Oh,
I didn't get them saved. I'm sick. So if anybody wants to send me some, my email is thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com, or we'll figure out something. So thank you, Lara. I'm looking
Thank
forward. Do
you.
we have a title for the next book after Red Rain?
The working title on that one is Be the Match.
Be the Match. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And tell Bill hi. We're really
Okay, I
excited
will.
about, we'd like to get him to come in on our Zoom maybe this year too. So everybody sign up. It's going to be amazing. And I've got a lot of surprises this year. And I know that when I announced it was going to be Zoom and not live, all my authors said, thank you, I can come. I can come. So we'll see you all in January. In the meantime, every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock next week, Lara Bernhardt. Thank you, Laura. Congratulations. Bye. Bye,
so much.
Kathy. Bye,
Bye.
Jen. Bye, Tracy. Bye, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.